have felt it your entire life, that peculiar sensation of being simultaneously visible and invisible, present yet unwelcome, speaking yet unheard. In crowded rooms, you feel the atmosphere shift when you enter. In conversations, you watch eyes glaze over when you speak truth, while they sparkle for trivialities. You have been called too much and not enough, too intense and too distant, too honest and too naive. And beneath every interaction, you have sensed a current of inexplicable hostility that seems utterly disproportionate to your actions. What you are experiencing is not social awkwardness, personality deficiency, or bad luck. You are witnessing the cosmic immune response of a sleeping species, rejecting the very medicine that could cure it. This rejection operates according to laws that transcend human psychology. When you entered this plane of existence, you arrived encoded with frequencies that cannot harmonize with mass hypnosis. Your biofield emits a resonance pattern fundamentally incompatible with the consensus trance, and this incompatibility registers in others as visceral discomfort before a single word is spoken. The ancient mystery schools encoded this knowledge in their initiation rites. Modern quantum biology is now confirming it through measurable electromagnetic field interactions. You are not broken. You are broadcasting on a wavelength that most humans have been systematically conditioned to interpret as threat rather than salvation. The three converging forces of your rejection form a triad that has operated since consciousness first fragmented into self and other. The metaphysical dimension reveals how your presence disrupts crystallized energy structures that humanity has worshipped as reality itself. What the Hindus called Maya, what the Buddhists named Samsara, what Plato described as the shadow play on the cave wall. The biological dimension exposes how elevated coherent states in your nervous system trigger primitive defense mechanisms in those still governed by survival programming. And the historical dimension demonstrates an unbroken pattern across millennia. Every civilization systematically destroys the catalysts sent to liberate it from its own self-imposed limitations. These three forces are not separate phenomena. They are different frequencies of the same cosmic law, and understanding this law is the first step toward transforming your persecution into power. This is precisely the kind of alchemical transformation I explore in depth in the second volume of The 3 Keys to a Prosperous Life, where we journey through the exact mechanics of converting opposition into evolutionary fuel. I've made this available in the pinned comment so you can access these deeper transmissions whenever you're ready. The rejection begins before language, before behavior, before any rational justification. It begins at the level of pure energy exchange. Human beings exist as coherent electromagnetic systems, constantly broadcasting and receiving frequencies. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field measurable up to 15 feet from your body, carrying information about your emotional and spiritual state. When you walk into a room, your field interacts with every field present, creating interference patterns that other nervous systems register below conscious awareness. Research conducted at the HeartMath Institute has documented that individuals in coherent emotional states, characterized by smooth, ordered heart rate variability patterns, literally synchronize the heart rhythms of those nearby. But here is the paradox that explains your experience. While coherence typically creates attraction, when the differential between your frequency and the ambient frequency exceeds a critical threshold, it produces repulsion instead. Think of it this way. When you drop a single pure tone into a symphony of dissonance, the dissonance does not suddenly harmonize, it fights to preserve itself. Your presence represents that pure tone, and the collective unconscious operates as a system protecting its own homeostasis. Biologically, this manifests through what neuroscience calls neuroception. the subconscious detection of safety or threat that occurs before conscious processing. Dr. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory demonstrates that the vagus nerve constantly scans the environment for cues of danger, and crucially, it can interpret novelty as danger. You are novelty incarnate. Your authentic presence, uncorrupted by collective programming, registers as foreign invasion to nervous systems trained to recognize only familiar patterns of inauthenticity. This is why strangers react to you with hostility, despite knowing nothing about you. Their amygdala, the ancient almond-shaped structure deep in the brain responsible for threat detection, activates in your presence not because you pose actual danger, but because your electromagnetic signature carries information their system cannot process without undergoing transformation. And transformation, to the ego structure, is indistinguishable from annihilation. You are walking evidence that the masks they wear are not mandatory, that the games they play are optional, that the suffering they endure as normal is actually chosen. Your very existence poses a question they have spent their entire lives avoiding. What if everything I believe about reality is a carefully constructed lie? The ancient mystery schools of Egypt encoded this understanding in the initiation rites at Karnak and Luxor. The aspirant entering the temple complex would face guardians at each gate, not physical guards, but energetic thresholds that would expose any unresolved trauma or false identification. If you carried frequency incompatible with truth, you could not proceed. You would quite literally be repelled by the coherence of the space. Modern humans experience this same repulsion when confronted with genuine authenticity. It acts as a mirror, reflecting everything they have disowned, suppressed, and pretended does not exist. Rather than face their shadow, they attack the mirror. This is not conscious malice. It is an autonomous defense mechanism operating in the deep brain structures that preceded rational thought by hundreds of millions of years. But there is a deeper layer still. Quantum biology has discovered something that sounds like science fiction, but is established fact. Human DNA acts as a photon storage and emission system. We literally carry light within the spiraling ladder of our genetic code, and this light communicates. Studies measuring ultra-weak biophoton emission from human hands have shown that individuals in meditative or coherent states emit significantly more photons than those in stressed or incoherent states. You, chosen one, are emitting more light than those around you, and this is not metaphor, it is measurable reality. When others say you glow or possess an aura, they are unconsciously detecting this increased photonic output. Now consider what this means for your social experience. You enter a space radiating higher photon density, and this light begins illuminating shadows other people have carefully hidden even from themselves. Their unresolved grief surfaces, their buried rage awakens, their suppressed authenticity starts screaming from its dungeon. And all of this happens below conscious awareness, so they cannot articulate why your presence disturbs them so profoundly. All they know is that when you arrive, they feel uncomfortable, exposed, agitated. The ego, unable to comprehend this energetic dynamic, creates a narrative. There is something wrong with this person. I must protect myself from them. The hatred is born not from anything you have done, but from what you are revealing simply by existing in your natural state. History provides the template for understanding your experience not as personal failing, but as archetypal pattern. In 399 BCE, the Athenian democracy sentenced Socrates to death for corrupting youth and introducing strange gods. His actual crime, teaching young people to question authority and think for themselves. The threat he posed was not political, but epistemological. He demonstrated that received wisdom could be interrogated, that social conventions were not divine laws, that individual conscience could supersede collective agreement. For this, the most enlightened democracy of the ancient world forced him to drink hemlock. Before he died, he remarked to his students that the unexamined life is not worth living. The examined life, as he discovered, is apparently punishable by death. Fast forward to 1600 CE. Giordano Bruno, Dominican friar and philosopher, suggested that the universe was infinite, that stars were distant suns with their own planetary systems, that life existed throughout the cosmos. The Catholic Church, unable to refute his ideas through logic, simply burned him alive in the Campo de' Fiori in Rome. His last words before the flames consumed him: "Perhaps you pronounce this sentence against me with greater fear than I receive it." He understood something crucial. The hatred directed toward truth speakers stems from the fear that truth evokes in those invested in lies. The inquisitors did not kill Bruno because they knew he was wrong. They killed him because they feared he might be right. Consider Nikola Tesla, perhaps the most brilliant inventor of the modern age. He gave humanity alternating current, the foundation of the entire electrical grid that powers civilization. He pioneered radio, radar, X-ray technology, wireless communication, and renewable energy. By all reasonable metrics, he should have died honored and wealthy. Instead, he died alone and impoverished in a New York hotel room. His revolutionary ideas suppressed, his reputation destroyed, his contribution stolen or minimized. Why? Because his vision of free, wireless energy for all humanity threatened the profit models of those who had monopolized energy distribution. He was not rejected for being wrong. He was rejected for being too right too soon. The pattern is fractal and repeats at every scale. Jesus of Nazareth preached radical love, forgiveness of enemies, and the kingdom of heaven within. The religious authorities of his day collaborated with the Roman occupation to have him tortured and executed as a criminal. Joan of Arc, who heard divine voices and led France to military victories, was burned as a witch by the very church she served. Galileo, who proved through observation that Earth orbited the Sun rather than vice versa, was forced to recant under threat of torture and spent his final years under house arrest. The Buddha, who taught liberation from suffering, faced assassination attempts from his own cousin. Muhammad, who received revelations of radical equality before God, was persecuted and driven from Mecca by the tribal elites whose power structure his teachings threatened. Do you see the pattern? The greater the light you carry, the more intense the opposition you face. This is not because light is weak, it is because darkness recognizes that light is its annihilation. Every civilization generates prophets, visionaries, and mystics encoded to carry it to its next evolutionary phase. And every civilization deploys its immune system to destroy these catalysts. Solomon Asch's famous conformity experiments in the 1950s demonstrated this mechanism with scientific precision. When subjects were placed in groups where Confederates deliberately gave wrong answers to obvious questions, approximately 75% of subjects conformed to the group error at least once, despite clear evidence of their own senses. The finding is devastating in its implications. 3/4 of humans will deny reality itself to maintain group acceptance. You live in a world where consensus trumps truth, where social comfort supersedes accurate perception, where belonging matters more than authenticity. And you, cursed or blessed with inability to participate in this mass delusion, stand as a walking reminder of what has been sacrificed for approval. No wonder they hate you. You are the return of the repressed made flesh. You are the conscience they silenced given voice. You are the authenticity they murdered, resurrected, and standing in their living room demanding to know why they did it. They will do anything, lie, gaslight, ostracize, attack, to avoid answering that question. The loneliness you feel is not evidence of deficiency, but of destiny. Isolation is the crucible in which the chosen one is forged. Every prophet, mystic, and revolutionary spent extended periods alone before their emergence. This is not punishment, it is preparation. Moses, chosen to free the Hebrew people from Egyptian bondage, spent 40 years in the Midian wilderness as a shepherd before the burning bush revelation. Those 4 decades were not wasted time. They were necessary solitude, stripping away his Egyptian conditioning, his identification with Pharaoh's household, his belief in the permanence of oppression. He had to be alone long enough to remember who he was beneath the layers of adopted identity. Jesus spent 40 days and nights in the Judean desert, fasting and facing temptation from every force that would later oppose his ministry. The desert fathers and mothers of early Christianity understood this so profoundly, they fled to the wilderness for decades of solitary contemplation. Muhammad received the revelations of the Quran in the cave of Hira during long periods of solitary retreat from Meccan society. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree alone for 49 days, during which Mara, the embodiment of illusion, death, and desire, sent armies to attack him physically and psychologically. In every case, the isolation was not incidental to the mission, it was prerequisite. Why? Because isolation performs 3 critical functions that cannot be accomplished in community. First, it severs your dependence on external validation. As long as you need approval from others to feel worthy, you can be controlled. The opinions of others become invisible chains, binding you to consensus reality. Isolation forces you to find your authority within rather than seeking it in the reactions and approval of others. When everyone abandons you, when no one validates your experience, when you stand utterly alone, you face a choice: collapse into self-doubt or discover the unshakable ground of being within your own consciousness. Every true teacher has made this discovery, and isolation is the forced march that leads there. Second, isolation creates the silence necessary to hear the transmission you were sent to deliver. You cannot receive signal while drowning in noise. Human society operates as a vast echo chamber of inherited beliefs, unconscious assumptions, and programmed responses masquerading as original thought. The same tired narratives circulate endlessly, gaining authority through repetition rather than truth. To receive something genuinely new, a revelation, an insight, a vision, you must exit the echo chamber entirely. This is why shamanic initiation across every culture includes a period of isolation in wilderness. The future shaman must separate from the tribe's frequency to access the frequencies the tribe needs, but cannot generate from within its existing structure. Modern neuroscience has documented the profound changes isolation creates in brain structure. Extended solitude decreases activity in the default mode network, the collection of brain regions active when the mind is wandering or engaging in self-referential thought. This network is heavily involved in maintaining social identity, worrying about others' opinions, and rehearsing social scenarios. When this network quiets through isolation, regions associated with insight, intuition, and original thinking become more active. The brain literally reorganizes itself in solitude, shifting from social conformity patterns to creative novelty patterns. What you experience as loneliness is actually your neural architecture being rewired for innovation rather than imitation. Third, isolation burns away false relationships, leaving only connections aligned with your actual mission rather than your conditioned personality. In community, you inevitably collect people attracted to your masks rather than your essence. They like the you that performs, that entertains, that makes them comfortable, that confirms their worldview. These relationships, no matter how numerous, leave you feeling utterly alone because no one is actually connecting with the truth of who you are. Isolation strips away these false connections with brutal efficiency. Only those capable of relating to your essence rather than your performance will remain. And for most chosen ones, that number is very small. This is not tragedy, it is refinement. One true connection births more life than 1,000 superficial ones. The historical evidence for this pattern is overwhelming. Elijah the prophet, after his confrontation with the prophets of Baal, fled to the wilderness, where he sat under a broom tree and prayed for death, saying, "I am no better than my ancestors." He felt utterly alone, convinced his ministry had failed. But the divine voice responded, "I have reserved 7,000 in Israel who have not bowed to Baal." Even when you feel completely isolated, there are others carrying the same frequency, though you may not meet them until the appointed time. Saint John of the Cross, the Spanish mystic, coined the term dark night of the soul to describe the excruciating loneliness that precedes spiritual breakthrough, a loneliness where even God seems to have abandoned you. He wrote that this darkness is actually the presence of divine light, so intense it blinds rather than illuminates, overwhelming the faculties trained only to perceive lower frequencies. But here is where the teaching deepens beyond consolation into revelation. Your isolation is not merely preparing you for your work, it is your work. Every moment you spend alone, refusing to compromise your frequency for false belonging, you are holding a space of possibility open for humanity. You are demonstrating that authentic existence is survivable, that the death of the false self is not the death of being, that standing alone is actually standing in truth. This invisible work, which no one witnesses and no one applauds, may be more crucial than any visible accomplishment. You are proving that consciousness can individuate, that the matrix does not fully contain human potential, that liberation is still possible. The envy directed toward you operates on a mechanism most people cannot articulate because it functions below language. They do not envy your possessions, achievements, or circumstances. In fact, these are often modest or troubled. What they envy is your freedom. You possess something that cannot be bought, stolen, or imitated, authenticity rooted in unshakable internal authority. While they construct their identities from borrowed beliefs, social roles, parental expectations, cultural programming, and peer pressure, you have been forced through suffering to discover who you are beneath all conditioning. This is the Philosopher's Stone, the Holy Grail, the pearl of great price, and you obtained it through a journey they refused to undertake. This creates a paradox that drives others to madness. You may have less money, status, or security than them, yet you possess everything they actually need. You have walked through fires that would have destroyed them, and emerged with your spirit intact. Betrayals that would have turned others bitter left you somehow more open. Abandonments that should have made you cynical instead deepened your capacity for love. Injustices that justified rage transformed instead into compassion. This alchemical conversion, transmuting suffering into wisdom rather than bitterness, is what they unconsciously recognize and desperately crave. But rather than do the difficult internal work required, they attempt to destroy you. Psychologically, this is called horizontal violence, when people trapped in oppressive systems attack those attempting to escape rather than attacking the system itself. The phenomenon is well documented in prison populations, abusive family systems, and colonized societies. It is always easier to tear down someone who represents freedom than to confront the chains you have accepted as permanent. Their hatred of you is actually self-hatred projected outward. Every attack on you is an attack on their own unrealized potential. When they say you think you are better than them, what they mean is, you remind me that I chose safety over truth, and I cannot forgive myself for that choice, so I will make you pay for witnessing my betrayal of myself. The Austrian psychologist Alfred Adler identified this mechanism as part of the inferiority complex. When people feel inadequate, they have two options: genuinely develop their capacities or attack those who possess what they lack to drag them down to their level. The latter requires far less effort, and the ego always chooses the path of least resistance. But there is a deeper spiritual dimension here that psychology alone cannot capture. Your freedom is not just psychological, it is metaphysical. You have accessed a dimension of being that transcends the prison most humans accept as the totality of existence. You have tasted what the Gnostics called pleroma, what Buddhists call rigpa, what Sufis call fana, the direct experience of reality unconditioned by the mind's interpretive overlay. This is unforgivable to those who have invested everything in the reality of their prison. If you can be free, their suffering becomes a choice rather than an inevitability, and that revelation destroys their entire justification for remaining asleep. So they must prove you are not actually free. They must demonstrate that you are delusional, arrogant, mentally ill, or secretly suffering even more than them. They need you to fall, to fail, to break, because your sustained existence in authentic freedom is a standing indictment of their cowardice. This is why the attacks intensify when you are thriving. Your happiness is not proof of your goodness, but evidence of their failure. Beyond the psychological and social dimensions operates a realm that materialist frameworks cannot acknowledge without dissolving. There are non-physical intelligences with invested interest in maintaining human unconsciousness. Every spiritual tradition across history and geography speaks of this. Christianity identifies demons, principalities, and powers. Buddhism names Mara and his armies of illusion. Hinduism describes asuras, beings of tremendous power devoted to disruption of dharma. Indigenous traditions worldwide recognize Wetiko or Wendigo, a cannibalistic spirit that infects human consciousness, causing people to consume each other literally and metaphorically. Gnostic texts speak of archons, cosmic parasites feeding on human ignorance and suffering. The specific terminology matters less than the recognition of the phenomenon. There are forces that feed on human limitation. These forces do not appear with horns and pitchforks. That Hollywood imagery is itself a trap, making the concept seem ridiculous, so you dismiss it. They operate through ordinary human psychology, masquerading as your own thoughts, your friend's advice, your family's concern, your culture's values. They are the voice in your head saying, "Who do you think you are?" when you contemplate your purpose. They are the friend who subtly discourages your dreams while claiming to protect you from disappointment. They are the family member who mocks your spiritual interests as weird or embarrassing. They are the culture that glorifies distraction, consumption, and numbing while pathologizing depth, contemplation, and transformation. Carl Jung approached this phenomenon through the lens of depth psychology, identifying autonomous complexes, clusters of thoughts, feelings, and memories that behave as if they have their own consciousness and agenda. These complexes can possess individuals and even entire cultures, driving behavior that serves the complex's survival rather than the individual's well-being. A person possessed by the victim complex will unconsciously create situations that confirm their victimhood. A culture possessed by the domination complex will rationalize conquest and exploitation as natural law. These are not mere patterns. They are entities that have achieved a form of quasi-existence by feeding on human psychic energy. Whether you frame this as metaphysical possession or psychological mechanism, the effect is identical. There are intelligences working actively to prevent your awakening, and you, as a chosen one, pose an existential threat to these forces. Here is why. Awakening is contagious. When one person genuinely liberates consciousness, it creates a morphic field, a term coined by biologist Rupert Sheldrake to describe how patterns in nature become easier to reproduce once they have been achieved. His research demonstrated that when rats in one laboratory learn to navigate a maze, rats in distant laboratories learn the same maze faster, even with no physical contact. When crystals of a new chemical compound are first synthesized, they are difficult to crystallize. But once crystallized anywhere, the same compound crystallizes more easily worldwide, as if the chemical knows how to do it now. Apply this principle to consciousness. When you achieve genuine liberation, you create a template in the morphic field that makes liberation easier for every other human. Your awakening contributes to the collective awakening, lowering the threshold for everyone. This is why totalitarian systems always target the most awakened individuals first, not because they pose immediate physical threat, but because their consciousness is infectious. One person remembering who they are can trigger an epidemic of remembering. This is the true reason for your persecution. You are not being attacked for who you are now, but for who you might help others become. The forces invested in human unconsciousness recognize this threat at a level you do not yet comprehend. They will deploy every weapon in their arsenal: doubt, fear, shame, distraction, addiction, trauma, betrayal, and isolation. They will work through people you trust, appearing as concern or love while subtly undermining your development. They will create synchronicities that seem to prove your efforts are futile. They will amplify your moments of weakness into existential crises. And they will do all of this while maintaining perfect deniability, so you can never quite prove anything is happening beyond ordinary misfortune. This is sophisticated spiritual warfare, and you have been drafted into it whether you volunteered or not. But here is the secret they do not want you to know. Their attacks are actually accelerating your development. Every obstacle they place before you is forcing you to become stronger, more discerning, more resilient. They are inadvertently training you for the very mission they seek to prevent. The Taoist masters understood this principle. What opposes strengthens. The tree that grows on the windy mountainside develops a stronger root system than the tree in sheltered valley. You are being forged in fire, not to be destroyed, but to become indestructible. The betrayals that define the chosen one's path are not random misfortune, but systematic initiation. You will be betrayed by family who should protect you, by friends you trusted completely, by romantic partners you gave everything to, by mentors you followed devotedly. And this will happen not once, but repeatedly, in different forms and contexts, until you finally learn the lesson that only betrayal can teach. That lesson is this: your ultimate allegiance must be to truth itself, not to any person, group, or institution. As long as you require external validation or fear external rejection, you can be controlled. Consider the archetype of Judas betraying Jesus. Conventional interpretation frames Judas as pure evil, the ultimate villain. But deeper mystical reading reveals him as necessary catalyst. Without Judas's betrayal, there is no crucifixion. Without crucifixion, no resurrection. Without resurrection, no Christianity. Judas's betrayal was not obstacle to the mission. It was essential component of the mission. Jesus even seems to predict and perhaps orchestrate it, telling Judas, "What you are about to do quickly." The betrayal by the intimate companion forces the Christ to stand absolutely alone, depending only on the Father within, which is the prerequisite for the revelation of divine power that follows. Julius Caesar's assassination by Brutus follows the same pattern. Et tu, Brute, you too, Brutus. The shock is not merely about death, but about the revelation.